She kept twisting the doorknob like it was hers. I was inside watching from the hallway camera feed. "Open this door right now or I'll call the cops," she yelled, her face red and trembling with fake authority. That was Karen, our HOA president, who believed every house in this neighborhood belonged to her rules. She had a clipboard in one hand and her phone in the other, dialing 911 like she was reporting a murder. "This man changed his locks without HOA approval," she shouted into the phone, loud enough for half the street to hear. I didn't move. I just watched, calm, almost too calm. Because I knew exactly what she didn't. The lock she was trying to inspect was on my door, my private property, and the HOA had no say over it. She thought she had control, but not this time. Minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled up. Karen put on her sweetest fake smile and pointed at my house. "That's him, officers. He's being aggressive and refusing inspection." The way she said inspection made it sound official, but it was just her usual power trip. I slowly opened the door, just enough for the cops to see my face. "Everything okay, sir?" one of them asked. Before I could answer, Karen jumped in. "No, it's not okay. He's violating HOA security codes." The younger cop looked confused. "Ma'am, HOA doesn't have security codes." Karen stuttered. Well, I'm the HOA president, and he can't just lock the community doors." I sighed. This is my home, not community property. But before the tension could settle, the door behind me opened quietly, and my wife stepped out. She was calm, firm, her badge glinting slightly under the porch light. The older cop's eyes widened. "Chief?" Karen froze mid-sentence. Her mouth hung open as my wife folded her arms and said, "Is there a reason you're trespassing on my property, Ms. Karen?" That moment, the silence that followed, was priceless. Karen's color drained from her face as the officers slowly turned toward her. I didn't have to say another word. My wife's presence alone flipped the whole power game in seconds, and that was just the beginning. Karen tried to laugh it off, her voice trembling. "Oh, I didn't realize you were, law enforcement. I was just doing my duty as HOA president." My wife raised an eyebrow. "Your duty doesn't include trespassing or filing false reports," she said calmly, stepping closer. "You just called 2 on-duty officers to our home for changing a lock?" The air was heavy. Neighbors had started peeking through blinds, pretending not to watch. Karen's fake confidence was melting fast. "There's been issues with him before?" she stammered, pointing at me. "He's not cooperative. He ignores notices." I almost laughed. "You mean the fake notices you printed from your laptop? The ones saying I needed HOA-approved hinges?" The younger cop coughed, trying to hide his grin. The older one wasn't amused. "Ma'am," he said, "you can't misuse emergency lines for this." Karen snapped. "You don't understand. People like him ruin neighborhoods." Her voice cracked with rage, her finger still shaking toward me. The way she said "people like him" made the street go silent. My wife's tone dropped, steady, controlled, but with that quiet force that made everyone pay attention. "People like him? You might want to explain that sentence carefully, Ms. Karen." Karen tried to backpedal, but it was too late. My wife signaled the officers, and one of them started taking down Karen's statement, now clearly treating her like the problem. "This is harassment, Karen," my wife said, her voice calm but cold. "And it stops tonight." Karen huffed, crossing her arms. "You can't threaten me. I'll take this to the HOA board." That's when I pulled out my phone. "You mean this board?" I asked, showing her the live video feed. The entire encounter, her yelling, breaking the handle, calling 911, was being streamed to the neighborhood's private Facebook group. Her eyes widened in horror. You recorded this?" I nodded slowly. "You wanted everyone involved, right? Now they are." Her hands trembled, but her voice cracked into a whisper. "You'll regret this." I didn't even flinch. "Karen," my wife said quietly, stepping closer, "you've already made sure you will." And that was when the real twist began. Karen turned to leave, her face pale. But the cops didn't let her go that easy. The older one stopped her. "Ma'am, we'll need you to stay for a few more questions," he said. She froze again, trying to keep her smile steady. "Questions for what?" "I'm the victim here." The officer shook his head. "You made a false emergency call. That's a crime." Karen's fake calm snapped. "No, I didn't. He's dangerous, I swear. He threatened me before," she yelled, pointing at me again. My wife stepped forward, her voice quiet but sharp. Ma'am, if you keep lying, I'll have to charge you for defamation as well. That word hit her like a slap. She went silent, eyes darting between the two. Officers and the small crowd now forming near the sidewalk. I could see our neighbor Tom recording everything on his phone. The same Tom she once fined for painting his mailbox the wrong shade of beige. Karen's tone suddenly shifted, soft, pleading. Look, maybe we can handle this privately. No need to escalate. I looked straight at her. You escalated the moment you tried to open my door. She clenched her jaw, then whispered to the cops. Can I at least leave? The older cop hesitated, but finally nodded. We'll file the report. Don't leave town until we contact you. Karen stormed off, her heels clacking against the driveway. But before she reached the corner, I called out, Oh, Karen, you forgot something. I held up a crumpled paper, the fake HOA notice she'd taped to my door that morning. It read, Immediate eviction for non-compliance, signed, HOA enforcement. Only problem? The HOA had no such department. The younger officer took it from my hand. This is illegal, ma'am, he said, walking it over to her. Impersonating an authority? That's another charge. Karen's face turned white. That's not official. It's just a notice. My wife gave a small smirk. Then you won't mind if we send it to the State Housing Board for review. Karen didn't answer. She just got into her car, slammed the door, and sped off down the street like a guilty storm. As the officers left, my wife turned to me and said quietly, This isn't over. She'll come back. I looked at her and nodded. Good, I said, because next time she won't be facing a homeowner. I paused, letting a slow smile form. She'll be facing the chief's husband with everything on record. And neither of us knew that the next morning, something far bigger was waiting on our porch. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the porch, but something felt off. My wife noticed it first, a thick envelope, taped to the front door with final notice, printed in bold red letters. She tore it off and opened it. Inside was a fake eviction order, stamped with what looked like an official county seal. Karen's signature was scribbled at the bottom, along with the words, Failure to comply will result in forced removal. My wife sighed, rubbing her forehead. She really doesn't know when to quit. I checked the envelope, no return address, no traceable marks. It was clearly printed at home. But the timing was bold, sending it just hours after the cops warned her. As we stood there, Tom walked over from across the street holding his phone. You might want to see this, he said quietly. He showed me a video from the HOA group chat. Karen, standing in front of her house, claiming she was restoring neighborhood order and that law enforcement corruption was trying to silence her. She even hinted that my wife's badge was fake. My wife's jaw tightened. She's digging her own grave. Before we could react further, a black SUV pulled up to our driveway. 3 officers stepped out, different ones this time in formal attire. Karen followed behind them, clutching a folder, her expression smug again. See, she said loudly. Told you they were dangerous. One of the officers stepped forward. We received a complaint of impersonation of law enforcement. Karen folded her arms, grinning. She's pretending to be a police chief. I checked. There's no record of her name on the local department roster. My wife didn't say a word. She reached into her jacket, pulled out her wallet, and calmly flipped open her official federal badge. The sunlight caught the emblem perfectly. The officers froze mid-step. One of them took the badge, scanned it, and then stood at full attention. Ma'am, we didn't know you were with the Federal Bureau of Internal Affairs, he said carefully. Karen's grin vanished. Well, wait, what? My wife looked straight at her. You filed a federal false report, Miss Karen. Do you know what that means? Karen stumbled back, her face draining of color. This isn't possible. I just wanted control? My wife interrupted, her tone icy calm. Congratulations. You're under federal review now. The lead officer turned to Karen. Ma'am, you'll need to come with us for questioning. Karen shook her head in disbelief, backing toward her SUV. You can't do this. I run this community. My wife's voice cut through the air like a blade. Not anymore. And as the officers escorted Karen away, the neighborhood gathered quietly, phones out, watching their self-appointed queen finally crumble. But deep down I knew this wasn't the final chapter. Something told me Karen still had one last trick up her sleeve. The neighborhood was quiet that evening, almost too quiet. The kind of silence that settles after a storm but still carries the scent of rain. Karen's SUV was gone, and the HOA office had been locked all day. But around sunset, a car pulled up again. It wasn't her usual one. It was an unmarked silver sedan. I stepped out onto the porch, phone in hand, just in case. A man in a suit got out holding a briefcase. "Mr. Reynolds?" he asked politely. I nodded slowly. "Who's asking?" He opened the case and handed me a letter with a government seal. Real this time. "We've been reviewing several HOA complaints in this district," he said. "It seems your HOA president has been forging county documents and stealing maintenance funds. Your report helped us uncover everything." My wife joined me, standing tall beside him. "So it's official?" she asked. The agent nodded. "Very. She's being charged with fraud, impersonation, and obstruction. She won't be back here again." For a moment, I didn't say anything. I just looked out across the quiet street, at the houses she once ruled, with fake notices and empty threats. The same neighbors she used to scare now waved at me with relief. Tom shouted from his porch, "Guess the queen finally lost her crown." My wife smiled faintly. "Told you justice would come," she said softly. I chuckled, finally letting the tension in my chest go. "Yeah," I said. But it wasn't just justice, it was exposure. Real, public, permanent. Later that night, I stood by the window, watching the porch light flicker. My wife walked up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Just thinking. It's wild how fast power turns into panic when truth walks in." She smiled. "People like her forget. This country runs on law, not loud voices." I looked at her, proud and thankful. You know, when she called those cops that night, she had no idea she was opening the door to the chief herself. We both laughed quietly. The air outside was calm now, the kind of peace you only get when everything false finally falls apart. Before heading to bed, I checked my phone one last time. The video from that first night, Karen screaming, my wife stepping out, the officers freezing, had gone viral. Over 2 million views. And the top comment summed it up perfectly. "Never mess with a man's home, especially when his wife runs the law." The end. Subscribe my YouTube channel for more stories.